Hello, Pam with Beyond Movement Improvement and Freddie's behind. So today I wanted to address the hips in this Katonah yoga fashion. So Katonah yoga is all about finding space within not only the body, but also the mind. It is all about showing us where we go too often and where we don't go enough through the alignment and misalignment within the structure of our body, meaning the bones and the joints. Muscles will always repattern and form around the structure of our body. So that's why it's really important to address the geometrical proportions of our body through, well, the universal intelligence that we are created through. So the season currently is winter, which is the season of the kidneys and the lower back. So it's really important that we are setting up our alignment properly so we can therefore move forward in our life with the good balance of yin, yang, the right side being the paternal side, the side that goes out into the world, signs the checks, makes the deals, and the left side being the maternal, meaning that we stay in and it is more of our intuitive nature. It is our resting state, if you will. So props that you'll need are yoga blocks if you have 2 or even 4. Cork is great because it can help restructure the bones in your body due to their firmness. Soft ones are okay, but the muscles tend to melt around. So these are really good for propping your head, if you will, or propping your sacrum upwards. And if you don't have yoga blocks, you can get creative. You can use books if you have thick books like this. So you can use that. Another thing you'll need is a strap or, again, getting creative, a scarf that's long enough right here. And last but not least, a bolster or perhaps a pillow or a blanket. You can easily just roll these suckers up and create a little bolster out of that. Oh, and for real, last but not least, if you have a fold-up chair or any sort of chair, this is going to allow for us to get a bigger back bend and sit more in between our pubis and coccyx, which is at the very base of our spine. We always want to be sitting right over the pubis and coccyx. A lot of us sit back on our tails all day, so that's going to create some lower back pain and hip pain, and it just trickles throughout the body. So it's really important to have props, because if you think you're restructuring a house, you want to restructure it with something as brittle as hay or our bodies without having that binding nature to really structure us in, almost like we'll say stone or brick with houses, or wood even. So yeah, think hay versus stone, wood, brick. We want something more firm to tightly bind us in our body to help bring further alignment. So with that being said, let's get started. So the hips can tend to hold a lot of ancestral stuff. So you may notice some emotions arising throughout this practice. And if so, just let them come, let them be, and let them go. It's totally okay. So first thing we're going to start with is we are next to a wall. And the reason being is we really want to plug our feet into the wall. And what we're going to need for this first setup here is 2 yoga blocks and a strap. So essentially, we want to have our legs at 90 degrees. Our feet are plugging into the walls. And with 1 yoga block or a book, you're going to put it on its, so this is low, this is medium, this is high setting. We want it on the medium setting in between the knees. And that's how you know your feet are hip distance apart, right along the wall. And we're going to do an elevated bridge to start. So when we're laying down in this posture, we want to make sure, again, being as straight as possible, that our neck is creating space. So we're not crunching down like this, but we're creating space in the neck. Sorry, a little reposition here. So now we're going to start with the lowest height on our yoga block, right at the top of the pelvis bone here. So it's going to be your lower back, your higher glutes. You're just going to place that block under, right at the top of the pelvis. And see how my legs are 90 degrees? And now my leg bones are sitting directly inside my pelvis. And you want your feet plugged into the wall, just like a socket here. And if you don't feel anything, you really want to make sure that your hips are tilting downward. So therefore, we're opening up our psoas, which is attached to our back. And we're really allowing the space in our diaphragm to open up. And now we're just going to sit here and take some deep breaths. So if you can imagine a beaker, like in your science class, we're starting all the way down here from your pelvis, and we're inhaling all the way up to our throats with a nice deep inhale and exhaling. There we go. And as we're inhaling, that's going to further allow for our pelvis to tilt downwards. And we're thinking of our breath creating space, whether it be in your lower back, whether it be in the fronts of your thighs or your legs, your hip flexors, everything's opening up here. And so the whole point of slowing down is to get ahead by becoming more mindful of the tight spaces in your body. And essentially, you're just creating space with your breath. And with the space, you're creating further alignment in your pelvis region, because so many people have one hip forwards, whether it be their left hip, their maternal hip forward. So that's more so of the side that you're overusing, overstepping, staying in too much. And the right side, being the paternal, that side tends to go out too much. All right. So that looks pretty good here. So after that, we're just going to undo the block here and take the block out from underneath the knees. Now you're going to bring your feet down. All right, now that we have a good amount of space, you're going to put your thumbs on the inside of your leg bones and the rest of your fingers on the outside. You're just going to push your legs away from your body. And this is just bringing further space into the sacrum. A lot of this practice is going to be centered around the sacrum and just creating that space. There we go. So stay on the floor here, just repositioning my camera. I also forgot to mention, if you have a mirror, it's really helpful to have that on your side, literally like on one side. So that way you can see what you're doing and what you look like, and just to reinsure or reinforce your alignment. All right, now we're going to take a strap. And if you don't have a strap, again, you can take hold of a scarf. And what we're going to do now is we're going to stretch all around the hip joints. And when I say stretch, I just mean creating space, not stretching our muscles, but we are creating space within our joints and our bones. So we're going to take hold of a strap and we're going to put it right where the ball of the foot is. And then we're going to keep the other knee slightly bent and make sure that that knee is turned inwards. Another thing to help with this is making sure your toe is pointed slightly inwards. And we're going to interlace the strap around each side. You're going to pull the pinky side of your toe down, so that way your big toe's not coming inwards. We have a nice flat foot. You want to make sure that you can't see your heels. And we're going to softly bend our knee. So here we have our leg plugging into the hip socket here. And all we're going to do is just keep that knee bent. We don't want to straighten our leg because then the pose is over. We really want to make sure that we're not putting too much of that stress on the backs of the legs so we don't pull any muscles, and just feel what this feels like. Take some nice deep breaths. Try to keep your arms and your elbows as low to the ground as possible, so that way you're not using your shoulders. And really try to plug your leg bone into the socket and pull that toe away, so that way you have a nice flat and flexed foot. There should be no wrinkles around the ankles. That's a sign that you're in a good position, is when there's no wrinkles. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the strap in our right hand, and we're still keeping that pinky side of the toe down. And now we're going to take this little crevice right here. We're going to put, again, our thumb on the inside and our other fingers on the outside. We're just going to push down. You want to make sure that the sacrum on the left side is still square. You want to make sure that our head is still straight and not crunched in. So again, we're creating space, and we're just like a clock going to go over to 1 o'clock, and if it's available to you, 2 o'clock, keeping that knee slightly bent. Make sure that your right knee is still slightly bent and turned inwards. We're just going to take some deep breaths right here. And really push with that left hand in your hip crease, really making sure that your sacrum is nice and aligned with your right side. Again, this is all about symmetry. It's not about overdoing it. It's not about flexibility. It's about spaciousness. And this is just going to get different muscles than what you're used to doing a straight leg pose here. It's a complete different experience. So really breathe into the areas that are tight and create some space. And then with the other hand, whenever you're ready, you're going to come back to 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. You're going to now grab where your other hand was. Again, keeping that pinky side toe open and keeping your right knee inwards. Now you're going to take it over to 11 and perhaps 10 o'clock if it's available to you. Keep your knees softly bent. Again, no wrinkles on the ankles. Very, very good. Make sure your right hip is still down. We want as much symmetry as we can between both hips. This is really to align the pelvis. And then we're going to come back to 12 o'clock with our foot here. Then set your legs down. Slightly bend your knees and bring them out to the side. And the left leg should feel pretty spacious, like it's floating up. And feel how integrated this side feels compared to your right side. Now, if your right side is, we'll say your good side, it may feel symmetrical now. But now let's do the same thing with our right side. So now make sure that your left leg is slightly bent and the knee is inwards. And now you are flexing your right foot. You're interlacing the strap between your hands, pulling your elbows down, and you're pulling your pinky side of your foot down. And you're not looking at your heels. So your heels are invisible here as they're kind of winged out. And kind of bend that knee softly, soft bend. Good, and pry that toe, that pinky toe, open. Good. And your knee should be sitting directly over your hip socket. Good, very good. And keep breathing. Those nice long inhales and exhales. And we're going to take that strap in our left hand now and notice which side is tighter. We're going to slowly bring it over to the 11 and the 10 o'clock. Very good. Just breathe some space here. Notice which side is tighter. Don't judge it. Just allow it to be. Create more space on whichever side is tighter. If you have to go back and redo another side, that's totally fine. And then we're just going to come back to 12. We're going to take our hand, the same side hand. Now we're going to open that leg. Again, make sure that your left side, that knee is turned inwards. It's a constant reminder. And keeping your foot flexed and your feet towards the ceiling. So try not to turn too many weird ways, but making sure that your foot is flat facing the ceiling. Take some nice deep breaths here. And again, we're not opening up the groin. We're creating structure in the pelvis right now. Very good. Bring it all the way back to 12. Good. And remove the strap. Bring your foot down. Again, bring your feet out like a butterfly. And now both hips, both legs should feel like they're pretty spacious. They're floating. So now what we're going to do is bring your knees both to the same height here and just push your thighs away again. You're creating space all throughout your spine, your sacrum. And the next pose we're going to do, we're taking our chair and we are going to be doing a butterfly or a forward fold butterfly in the chair. So the chair is nice because it helps us get the natural wave in our pelvis that we need to support us. So it's going to better push your hips outwards and create that nice wave here that we can't quite get as much on the floor. We still can, but it just brings further awareness. So for this pose, you'll need a few yoga blocks, a chair. Yeah, and if you have a strap, that's great. So here we are. We're going to do almost like a forward fold in our chair. So basically your hips are set back. You're kind of butt cheek by butt cheek, pulling your butt bones apart here. And you can start with 2 yoga blocks, maybe 3 if needed. And all we're doing here is we're setting them about a foot's distance in front of the chair. And we're bringing our feet together. Now, again, if you really want to get set and situated in this pose and have more structure with the pose, you can take a strap. And what you're going to do, or a scarf, and what you're going to do is you're actually going to wrap this around your lower back here. And then you're just going to wrap the strap around your feet. So again, it's pulling you further into the pose where you need to be. If you don't have a strap or scarf, that's fine. Just try to be mindful of your alignment here. Really pushing your hips back so that way you're sitting in between your pubis and your coccyx. So right here, and my legs are pretty wide out. They're not too close into me. So if I were to bring my face down onto like my feet, basically, I could fit them there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hold my shins here and kind of pull myself forward. So what I'm doing to create spaciousness in my entire body is I'm pulling my sternum forward and up, and I'm moving my hips back. So I'm going in 2 opposing directions, and then my head is back. So it's not forward like this, but it's pulled back, and my shoulders are back. My elbows are rolled inwards. Yes, I still have my Christmas tree up. It's January 13th, full moon in Cancer. And I'm just taking some deep breaths here. I'm looking at the arches of my feet. And essentially, I'm looking to see if my feet are lined up and which arch is higher. Always just be mindful. Try not to be too discouraged in certain poses if they're a little bit harder or sticky or tricky to get into. Just observe and notice where you don't go as often. Again, the right side being paternal, going out into the world, signing the checks, making the deals, the left side staying in, being creative, going inwards. So you can see how being on this chair, I can get into this pose a little bit deeper. Very good. Take a few more deep breaths. Good boy. All right. Now we can release the strap. Next, we're going to come into a shoelace pose. So this is really good for the outer hips, the iliopsoas, which are kind of right here, TFL. You want to have, if you are tighter in the hip flexors, you want to have maybe 1 or 2 blocks. For me, I'm almost there. So I want to have 4 blocks. The more height, the more intense the stretch of the blocks. You want them right where your heel is, because we want as much alignment in this pose as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our left foot up with the yoga blocks on the right side. And then we want our right heel directly on our right knee. And then we're going to push this top knee down, and you're immediately going to feel this right in the side of your hip flexors, in which the top leg is. So we want our feet and our toes nice and flexed. There we go. Just like so. And then again, you want to bring your sternum forward and upward. So you're creating space, 2 opposing directions in your spine. And again, we're sitting directly over our pubis and our coccyx here. Take some deep breaths. Make sure that your chin is tucked in. So our head here in space is like this. Nice and aligned. Take some deep breaths. And just bring the space into the hips. We'll see which side feels tighter. Very good. And now let's switch sides. So now we're going to bring the blocks over. Now we're going to bring our left foot on top of our knee. Well, first, maybe right foot on the blocks. Again, the higher your blocks or your elevation, the harder it is because you're getting that much closer into shoelace pose. So no need for judgment. Just use the props to take advantage of where you are in time and space. You're exactly where you need to be. We're just bringing further awareness. Good. Now having both feet really, really flexed, feel the difference. This one, you'll definitely feel a very big difference. Like I don't feel anything on the side. On my right side being on top, I feel a lot. Good, good, good. Making sure we're nice and aligned. Very good. All right. The last two poses are going to be on the floor, and all we're going to need is the wall and some yoga blocks. Last two, but not least, twists. If you have any misalignment in your hips or your lower back, a twist will really reveal that. So this is one of my weaknesses. What we're going to start with, I'm going to give you two options. So the first one being where we're crossing our legs. So let me just show you first. We want to use the wall again to plug our bottom foot in. So first things first, we want to pick up our hips, move it all the way to the left of our mat. And then what we want to do here, so we want to cross our right side, our right leg over, and then our foot comes under that foot. And we're going to plug our bottom foot into the wall, give ourselves enough space here. And we really want to make sure that our sacrum is at 90 degrees here. So I do have a metal rod in my back, and this is a little hard. So I actually put a yoga block beneath my knee. And then we're going to put our left elbow at 90 degrees here. So if this is not available to you today, what you can do to make sure that you're keeping your hips in good alignment, you can use a yoga block and bring your feet and bring your legs down together and just plug your foot into the wall. And then again, we're going to have our left shoulder on the floor. You can use a yoga block underneath the elbow. So that way the elbow is not exceeding the shoulder. So that way, again, we're creating that symmetry. But for me, I'm going to cross my right side and then put my left foot, my left knee. If you're doing the modified version, your right foot will be against the wall. And then I am putting a yoga block underneath my left elbow, and I'm just letting my arm hang, and I'm looking towards the left. And again, I'm creating space here, so I'm really breathing for me into that lower back area, that sacrum. And as you breathe in, you'll come out of the posture a little bit. As you exhale, you'll get a little bit deeper into it. Just notice which side is harder for you to get into. This one feels really good on the side. The other side, not so much. That just shows that imbalance, and I'm okay with that. Just take a little bit longer on the extra side. Send that extra love to that side that doesn't get exposed as much. It's okay. I'm really pushing. I'm really working to push my left shoulder down, my right knees down. Really want your knee and your elbow supported here, whether it be by the ground or a yoga block on its lowest or even medium setting. All right, so now we're going to come back. We're going to untwist. Whew. I'm going to take a second. Good, good, good. And then we're going to switch sides. So now we're going to pull our hips all the way up and over to the right side. And the left side's going to cross over and under. Or if you need to do the modified version where the yoga block's right in between, and just make sure your bottom foot's pressed against the wall. So now left side. There we go. This is my struggle side. My knee supported by the block. And this elbow right here. Have some extra weight for you. Thanks, ready? And really look over to the side. Make sure that your elbow and knee supported here. It's my really, really bad side. Good thing I have some extra support. So just sending extra love to the side. It's just really unravel so much in the hips. Just allow yourself to be where you are and send that space through. Good. And when your foot's nice and plugged into the wall, you're extra anchored into this pose. And that's why I like using things like the wall and a chair. It's because you're extra anchored here. So this twist here is really bringing that natural wave in our lower back that we tend to lose through our workday just by sitting back on our tails. And so some of this may feel a little unnatural, but these postures eventually will feel natural and eventually will feel effortless, but we have to create effort to make things effortless. And that is where transformation happens. And that's how we can start to reply and respond to circumstances that get tough, is we have the tools to overcome them. Everything is all in our awareness and our control. All right, so let's come back to center, unravel your legs. Whew. If you need to do the side that was harder, again, you can pause the video and go back and do them. But the last pose now is going to be pigeon. What we're going to do to start our pigeon is we want to take a soft yoga block if you can, and we're actually going to a pigeon pose. You'll see a lot of people doing this, and I was guilty of this up until a few months ago. Just kind of rounding their lower back here and coming down without really creating space and height. So we want to think supple and soft. So here, what we want to do is we actually want to position the block under us so that this block is facing the front heel. We want to be as square as possible. We want the toe pointed. And another thing to focus on is having the pinky side of our back toe down. So let's start with the right foot forward so you can see. So not here, but pinky side toe down. So that's going to take some of the pressure off of your back knee. And then I'm just going to point this towards my front heel. And now my shin bone is directly parallel to the front of my yoga mat. I'm creating space here. If you have two more yoga blocks, you can put them right in line with your mat. And just sternum forward and upwards. And we're not sinking into the pose here. And then your head is back in space as you're looking forward. And take some deep breaths. Whenever you're ready, we're going to now put the yoga block under our pelvis on the low setting. And again, this is allowing for us to sit in between our pubis and our coccyx, not on our tails. We're going to create space here so we're not just getting swampy in the pose, but we're still creating space like this. And if you have that extra yoga block, you can put it right on your forehead. Put it right here and just let your natural wave of your head, natural wave of your neck, just be. If you don't, you can just hold your head up in space like this. It's totally fine. It's good to retrain your head to do so. And then we'll switch sides after this. The grand finale. Good. So sit back up again. Then we're going to come into our other pose. Always have to recheck myself too. I usually use a mirror that you see right behind me. So now we're going to get into the other side, the left side. Again, take note of what side is harder. Don't judge, just be aware and be excited for what's to come in terms of your results. This, I've never seen any practice, like whether it be strength training, any other yoga practice that brings such quick results. The thing is though, you have to be consistent with it. But this will totally restructure everything in your body because the hips are the most stable joint in our body. So again, have that block up on the medium setting. So that way it's right where our pelvis is. And if you have those extra yoga blocks, bring them right here, or you can use books. Get creative. Over time, you may start to find different tools that you can use that really help you get into these postures. And if you're not there today, that's okay. But the further alignment that you have in your body, the further alignment you have in your mind. And this just helps you think more clearly. It helps really, really regulate everything within all of your systems. You have more currency throughout your body and your spine through the alignment to really process things more smooth. You can regulate your nervous system through your breath. You can sleep better. You can therefore function and think better throughout your days. When you start to feel good, again, if it doesn't feel good now, I think it will eventually. It will. It's all a consistent practice. We're creating effort to make things effortless. Again, the hips are where things come up. And again, let it come and let it be. It's okay to be emotional and vulnerable. There's a lot of ancestral stuff is held in our hips, as I just mentioned earlier. So now, if it's available to you, come down. We're just going to rest our head on our yoga block here, put it at an angle, if you can see, like this, and have our arm bones nice and straight. Point the toe, the left toe, so that way you don't have a flexed foot. And then the back toe is down on the pinky side, so that way you're keeping and maintaining your hips square, really bringing that alignment. And just breathe the space into wherever is tight, whether it be the hips, the back, the left glute, the hip flexor, the side of the hips. For me, it's the side of the hips, and this is my more mobile side. The right side's not so much. All right, there we have it, y'all. Sit back on it one last time. Yes, winter is for the lower back, the hips, the kidneys, and again, with the hips being the most stable joint in the body, we have nice, stable hips, aligned hips. This allows for a nice, even, aligned shoulder because they're both our ball and socket joints. But when we lose our hips, we lose our shoulders. And it tends to be in the pattern of one hip and the opposite shoulder. So keep that in mind. I hope y'all enjoyed the practice today. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day, y'all. Cheers.